it is each of those things depending on the deal, right? And we'll see those happen. The thing that was interesting was when I was in Austin a month or two ago at the JP Morgan Chase uh, middle market meetup or whatever it was, where they basically matched us. They had 42 family offices and private equity funds and 42 companies, and we speed dated and talked to a bunch of them. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Lunch with me, Roland Frasier, your host, and co-host Ryan Deiss. Ryan, what's happening?
I have a new business proposition for you. Do you want to hear about it?
Fantastic. No, I'm in.
It's the next big thing. No, seriously, I was reading this article and I want to get your take on it. I think that This is right up your alley. It combines the two things that I think you love more than anything else.
Dogs and synthesizers.
Wine, yeah, dogs, wine and synthesizers. No, AI and roll-ups. I'm sure you've seen this, but this seems to be kind of the next big thing. So there's obviously all these people out there, all these companies, all these startups looking to build the next unicorn AI app. But there's also a number of businesses that are taking the track of, screw all that. And what they're doing is they're saying, let's go and roll up a bunch of old school businesses and inject AI in them, and then use that to add value. So you're familiar with Constellation Software and how they just went and bought a bunch of old software companies, kind of lumped them together. So that's kind of what these businesses are doing. So for example, I was looking at it, Crete is one of them. They're doing an accounting roll-up, and they're doing AI integration with that. Another one is Long Lake Management. I thought this was pretty cool. They're rolling up a bunch of HOA. So, all the neighborhood management, so all the HOA management companies, and they're with the goal of then AI-fying those. And then Harvey Capital, they're doing legal tech and then AI-fying those. So roll-ups, nothing new. Also the idea of rolling up a bunch of companies and then adding some kind of tech layer. This has been done, but it's also been done and it's failed spectacularly. We saw this with people who wanted to roll up a bunch of legacy retail brands and bring them into Amazon, or e-commerceify them. And boy, did that flop. What was it, like Frasier or whatever was one of the big e-com roll-ups, and it just crashed and burned. So what do you think about the strategy, and just kind of right off the bat, and do you think it's more of a Thrasio thing that's going to crash and burn? Do you think it's more of a Constellation Software, and this is the next multi-$100 billion opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I
and there is no in between, by the way.
It is each of those things depending on the deal, right? And we'll see those happen. The thing that was interesting was when I was in Austin a month or two ago at the JP Morgan Chase middle market meetup or whatever it was, where they basically matched us. They had 42 family offices and private equity funds and 42 companies, and we speed dated and talked to a bunch of them. All of them have this model that they're either buying up they're buying a platform company that they can use to do other acquisitions, and then they want to know, what do you have in terms of tech enablement and AI? Because if you have it, then they want to spread it to the companies that don't, that they're going to use your company as a platform to acquire. And if you don't have it, then they have a bench of people that they're going to bring in that will provide it, so that there's a bump in value for your company. So it's absolutely all the rage. And I think it makes sense. I agree with you. It's nothing different than has ever happened before. Like roll-ups, really, if you think of the heart of the roll-up, is we can achieve economies of scale by what they call merger synergies by bringing together these companies. So if you own a HVAC company and you've got 6 trucks, if you can acquire 7 other, HVAC companies, maybe you can share trucks, maybe you can optimize the routes, maybe for sure, you only need one back office, so you don't need 8 CEOs and 8 CMOs and all that kind of stuff. So you can be significantly more efficient, and then you can take the best of breed technology that each of those has, the best of breed SOPs, standard operating procedures, the best of breed customer service, the best of breed offerings, the best of breed, ads and lead gen and everything else, and smash them together and make this, superior Frankenstein company that is going to outperform everybody else in theory. But stats say merger synergies typically fail 80% of the time. Now, I believe that part of the reason that rate is so high is culture, a failure to look at culture fit among the companies that are being acquired early on. I think it's overzealousness by investment bankers pushing companies to acquire maybe things that don't quite fit without really taking a look at it. But when it does work, it's amazing. So like the basic building blocks of why you would do a roll up applied with AI and tech make perfect sense to me. So I think you will have the same result, though, that 80% of them won't work out like they hoped, and that it will be because of all the reasons that we just talked about. But the ones that do it right, that do it carefully, that are very selective in the companies that they're acquiring or the way in which they're AI-fying and techifying will make all the difference.
Okay. So I'm thinking that there's probably 3 different groups that could be listening to this right now. And I'd love to kind of talk through how each of them should respond. So let's say there's the old school business that isn't yet AI-ified. There's the old school business that is presently like they're adopting the new technology already. And so they're thinking that maybe they could be that platform play. And then you've just got the investor, the person who they're not operating any business. And so they're thinking about this as a particular strategy. If we were to start from the kind of the old school business, what would be your advice to them? Should they seek to AI-ify themselves, or should they look to just get acquired by some, already AI-ified business and just kind of throw in the towel and say, I don't want to do that?
I think it depends on your appetite for change and growth. That like if you are old school mentality and you're like, I've had this business for a long time and I do things the way I do it, and I'm kind of threatened by this other thing, but I'm not, like excited about it or hungry for it, and I just assume it didn't exist and hopefully it's a fad and it goes away, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure an acquisition or doing it yourself makes sense. I think that you thinking about selling to a company that can increase the value makes more sense. I think that because it takes curiosity and hunger to make that work. If you're old school sitting comfortably now making good profits, what's the motivation, right? But if you are if you're into it and you like the technology and you embrace it and you're comfortable with change and you're ready to shake things up in your company, and you realize that you can actually make significant advances in how well you operate and how your customers experience you, then I think it would make sense for you to think about being the acquirer, or the person that hires the people that can make the change happen that you want to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I'm trying to think of what I would say to somebody if they came to me and they're like, what do you think? Do I need to make this pivot in my business? Do I need to get with the times, or can I just write it out? And I was thinking it would probably depend really on their age and timeline.
I would say
if I'm
horizon.
talking to somebody in their, who's in their, let's say 70s, and they're planning on, and this could happen at any age, but I'm just saying hypothetically speaking, and they're like, I'm really only going to be running this thing for the next 4 or 5 years, and then I'm kind of just going to let it sunset, and I too am going to retire.
Yeah.
Then I'd probably say, you can just keep doing what you're doing and let your business die a slow and profitable death.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're planning to do anyway. And now it'll happen on its own, and you'll have the clients you have that are loyal and they'll stay loyal, and that's fine. But if you're like planning on giving this thing another 10 years, or if you do plan on selling it, I kind of feel like you've got no choice but to get with the times. And it seems to me like if you don't invest in, up leveling and AI-fying your business now, then if you do get acquired, and if you're one of these businesses, I mean, the reason that these roll-ups are so excited to buy all these old school companies and then AI-fy them is because they're getting a deal.
Yeah.
Right? They're paying below what they perceive as market so that they can scoop them up on the cheap, inject AI, and then boom, they're instantly worth more. So I don't think you want to be the company that's being acquired cheaply.
Yeah.
So
not unless you are keeping a significant retained interest to roll over into the new deal and then basically letting them do the work. And so the premium that you're paying to have an experienced team that's going to run the playbook of AI-fying and acquisitions to grow is the premium to get that team is basically the discount you take on the sale of your company. And that's not bad either. I mean, if you sold 60 or 70% of your company and had a retained interest of the balance, and then an experienced, well-funded private equity firm comes in and builds it up and brings the talent and AI-fies it and 6x's sales, your 40% that you kept now is worth 2.4 times what you sold the company for in the first place.